At the airport, my ex-wife hugged me and said, "I missed you." But before I could even breathe her name, another man stepped in and took her bag right out of her hand. "I'm Adrian, and 2 years ago, I signed the papers that ended my marriage to Rosalind, the only woman I've ever loved, the surgeon who left for a residency across the ocean I couldn't follow." Now here she was at gate 22, holding me like no time had passed, her "I missed you" still warm against my collar. But that other man lifted her bag like he'd done it 100 times, said her name like he owned it, and led her toward the same flight I was about to board. So who is this man carrying my ex-wife's bag? Why did Rosalind hug me like she never let go, but leave with someone else? And when both our names get called for the same delayed flight, will 3 hours in that airport rebuild everything we buried, or bury it for good? Let me back up, because 10 seconds is all it took to break me open, and I need you to understand how a man ends up standing in an airport, holding a cold coffee, coming apart in front of strangers. I wasn't supposed to see her. That's the thing. Of all the airports in the world, all the gates, all the flights, I wasn't supposed to see her. I was standing at gate 22, with a coffee going cold in my hand, and a boarding pass folded twice in my pocket. I was flying out to a job interview in Portland, a job I'd already half decided to turn down before I even landed. I didn't want the job. I wanted to feel like I was moving. There's a difference, and after 2 years of standing still, I couldn't tell it anymore. 2 years. That's what I was carrying that morning. Not the carry-on. The other thing. 2 years of sleeping on one side of a bed built for two. 2 years of cooking dinner for one and eating it standing up over the sink because sitting at the table felt like admitting something. 2 years of reaching for my phone at 3 a.m. to text her about nothing and stopping, every single time, with my thumb over her name. Then I heard it. My name. Not Adrian the way clients said it. All business. Second syllable clipped. Not Adrian the way my little sister said it when she wanted the car. The soft way. The way one person in the whole world had ever said it. Like the name itself was something delicate she was setting down carefully so it wouldn't break. I turned, and the terminal went silent in my ears. The gate announcements, the rolling suitcases, the crying baby 3 rows over. All of it just dropped away. Like someone had reached into the world and turned the volume down to nothing. Rosalind. 15 feet away. In a gray wool coat I didn't recognize. One I hadn't picked out with her, hadn't seen hanging by our door. Her hair was shorter now, cut just above her shoulders, and it made her look older and somehow younger at the same time. But her eyes were exactly the same. Dark and quick and honest. The eyes that used to find mine across a crowded room and say, "Let's leave. Let's go home," without either of us moving our lips. And before my brain could catch up, before I could arrange my face into something that didn't look like a man watching his whole past walk toward him, she crossed the distance between us, and she wrapped her arms around my neck. "I missed you," she whispered. 3 words. 2 years. My coffee nearly slipped straight out of my hand. I couldn't move. I stood there like a statue while the woman I had signed away in a beige office with a pen that ran out of ink held on to me like the last 2 years had been a bad dream we were both finally waking up from. I could smell her. That's what undid me. That faint trace of orange peel and clean cotton that used to live on my pillowcase, that used to be the last thing I breathed before sleep, and the first thing I breathed awake. It was still there. After everything, after all of it, she still smelled like home. My heart was slamming so hard against my ribs, I was sure she could feel it through both our coats. And for 1 second, one impossible, weightless second, the papers had never been signed. The ocean had never come between us. She had never left, and I had never let her. Then a voice cut clean through the middle of it. "Got it, Roz. Gates this way." A man, tall, easy in his shoulders, moving through the space around her like he had every right to be there. He reached over, casual as anything, and lifted her heavy bag right off her shoulder. The way you only lift something for someone when you've done it 100 times before and you'll do it 100 times again. And he said her name. Roz. The way you only say a name when it belongs to you. I let go of her so fast I nearly sent the coffee flying off the ledge behind me, and something cold and old and familiar poured down through my chest, all the way to my feet. Of course there was someone. Hadn't I lain awake wondering exactly this? At 3 a.m., thumb over her name, hadn't the worst question always been the same one? Who's carrying her bags now? Who reaches for her in the dark? Who gets to hear her laugh at the things she laughs at right before she falls asleep? And here he was, standing right in front of me, tall and calm and real, with her suitcase in his hand. I felt the blood leave my face. I felt my whole body want to fold in on itself right there on the airport floor, in front of the gate agent, and the crying baby, and the strangers scrolling their phones. But I didn't fold. "You two have a good flight," I said. My voice came out steady. To this day, I don't know how. Every single part of me was screaming, but I had spent 2 years learning how to hold my face together in front of clients and neighbors and my baby sister when she asked if I was okay. I had gotten good at it. Too good. And I was not going to shatter in front of the man carrying Rosalind's suitcase. I bent down. I picked up my own bag. I turned toward my gate. And I meant it. That's the part I need you to understand before this story goes any further. I wasn't going to chase her. I wasn't going to stammer and beg and make a scene. I wasn't going to become one of those men who can't take the hint, who circles the person who's already moved on like a dog that doesn't know the fence is electric. A man who loves a woman enough to let her fly across an entire ocean for her dream. That man knows how to walk away with his spine straight. I'd done it once already, 2 years ago, in that beige office. I could do it one more time. I took a step, 2 steps. "Adrian, wait." Her hand closed around my sleeve. I stopped, but I didn't turn around, not right away, because I did not trust what was written all over my face. "This is Theo," she said. Something in the way she said it made me turn. The man had set the suitcase down. He was holding out his hand to me, and there was this grin on his face, open, warm, a little nervous, like he already knew he'd stepped into the middle of something delicate. "The famous Adrian," he said, finally. "She's told me about you for years." And that's when I actually looked at him. Really looked. The jaw, the same stubborn cowlick sticking straight up at the crown of his head, the one no comb on earth could lie flat. The same crooked, sheepish smile I had seen in 100 old photographs on Rosalind's phone, back when we used to lie in bed and she'd scroll through her childhood and tell me the story behind every single picture. Theo, her little brother. The gangly, grinning teenager who had knocked the entire top tier off our wedding cake with his elbow and then laughed so hard he cried. Right there at the reception, until the whole room was laughing with him. Grown now, broad through the shoulders, a man instead of a boy. But the same Theo, not a boyfriend, not a new husband, not the man who reached for her in the dark. Her brother, flying out with her to help her carry boxes up a flight of stairs into a new apartment in a new city on the far side of the country. The relief hit me so hard and so fast that my knees actually went soft under me. I took his hand and I shook it, and I prayed to God he couldn't feel how badly mine was trembling. "Theo," I said, "you got tall." He laughed. "That's what everybody says." He glanced between the two of us, once, and whatever he saw in the air made his grin go quiet and gentle. "Hey, I'm gonna go track down some coffee. You two want anything?" Neither of us answered him. He nodded like he'd expected that, like he was older than his years all of a sudden, and he wandered off down the terminal, leaving behind the one thing Rosalind and I hadn't shared in 2 years. Space and silence. So there we stood. Gate 22. 8 years of marriage and one clean, quiet divorce, folded up in the air between us like a letter neither of us had ever finished reading. Neither of us knowing where in the world to put our hands. "You look good," she finally said. "You cut your hair." Her fingers went up to it, self-conscious, tucking a piece behind her ear, the way she always used to when she was nervous. "You noticed." I always noticed. It came out of me before I could stop it, low and true, and I watched it land on her like a stone dropped into still water, the ripples going out and out across her face, her eyes shining, just slightly, her lips parting like she was about to say something and then deciding not to. I should have said something safe right then. The weather, the delay, how strange it was to run into her here. Anything with edges I could hold on to. But before I could, the speaker overhead crackled to life, and a flat, bored voice filled the whole terminal. Attention passengers on Flight 447 with service to Portland. Due to weather conditions at your destination, this flight has been delayed. The new estimated boarding time is 3 hours from now. We apologize for the inconvenience, and thank you for your patience. 3 hours. Rosalind and I looked up at the departures board at the exact same moment. The word delayed glowing red beside our flight number. Then, slowly, we looked back at each other. The same flight, the same city, and now, 3 hours neither one of us could walk away from. She let out a small, shaky laugh, the kind that isn't really about anything being funny. Well, she said, the universe isn't exactly being subtle, is it? And I felt it. A door I had nailed shut 2 years ago, boarded over, painted the same color as the wall, so I'd stop noticing it was there. I felt that door swing loose on its hinges, just an inch, just enough to let a draft through. Roz, I said, carefully, like I was walking out onto ice and testing every step. Why are you on this flight? Last I heard you were still overseas, still in the program. Her laugh faded. She looked down at the boarding pass crumpled in her hand, then back up at me. And there was something in her eyes I couldn't name yet, something heavy, something that had been sitting on her chest for a long, long time, something she'd carried across an ocean and back. I finished, she said quietly. The residency. I'm done, Adrian. I came back 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks. She'd been back in the country for 3 weeks, and I hadn't known. Of course I hadn't known. Why would I? I gave up the right to know things like that in a beige office with a pen that ran out of ink. That's incredible, Roz, I said. And I meant it, even as something twisted behind my ribs. You did it. You actually did it. Chief Resident? A small, sad smile. Chief Resident? Your dad would have... I stopped myself. Too far. Way too far. But she didn't flinch. She just nodded, her eyes going glassy, and whispered, yeah, he would have. We stood in that for a moment, the weight of everyone who wasn't there. Then I asked the only question left, the one underneath all the others, the one I'd been circling for 2 years, in the dark with my thumb over her name. Then why are you moving to Portland? You're from here. Everyone you love is here. Why would you finish the hardest thing you've ever done and then move all the way across the country, away from everything? And that's when Rosalind's face changed. The polite mask slipped. The chief resident, the woman who could hold a scalpel steady over a stranger's beating heart, she disappeared. And underneath was just the girl I married, the one who used to cry at dog food commercials and hold my hand in her sleep. She looked at me for a long, long moment. Adrian, she said, and her voice broke right down the middle. There's something I never told you about why I left. The real reason. And I've been carrying it for 2 years, and I don't think I can carry it onto that plane. The world went quiet again. Just her and me and the red word delayed glowing over our heads. I never wanted to go, she whispered. Not the way you think I did. The chair beside her was empty, and she sank into it, like her legs had finally given up. I sat down across from her. Between us was one of those little airport tables, sticky with somebody else's spilled soda, and I remember thinking how strange it was that the most important conversation of my life was going to happen at a plastic table under buzzing lights, with a janitor mopping somewhere behind us and a departures board blinking red over our heads. Tell me, I said, the real reason. She wrapped both hands around a paper cup of tea she hadn't touched, just to have something to hold. Her knuckles were pale. I noticed her wedding finger was bare, and I made myself look away from it. You remember the night the residency letter came, she said. I nodded. Of course I remembered. It was the best and worst night of our marriage, sitting side by side on the kitchen floor, the acceptance letter shaking in her hands. 2 years. A surgical program on the other side of the ocean. The kind of program that only comes once. The kind that turns a good surgeon into a great one. The kind you dream about and never actually get. And I remembered what came right after the joy. The silence. Because we both knew, in the same breath, that I couldn't come with her. June, I said quietly. Rosalind's eyes filled instantly at the name. My little sister, 15 years old that year. 2 years since we'd lost Mom and Dad in one terrible night on a wet highway, and I'd stood in a lawyer's office and signed my name and become her guardian, her whole world. the only steady thing left in a life that had lost everything else. She was 15, I said, my throat tightening. She was halfway through high school. Her friends, her school, her counselor, the grief group that was finally starting to help. I couldn't rip her out of all of it and drag her across an ocean to a country where she didn't speak the language. 6 months after we buried our parents. I couldn't. And you never once asked me to. That's not why you left, Roz. I know that. I've always known that. No, she whispered. That's not why I left. And here it came. The thing under the thing. We tried everything, Adrian. Her voice was shaking now. You remember. 8 months of counseling. That office with the ugly green couch and the little clock the therapist kept turning to face us. We did the work. We were the couple who did the work. I remember. And it didn't fail because we didn't talk. A tear slipped down her cheek and she let it. God, we talked. We talked until there was nothing left to say. It failed because there was no sentence that fixed it. There was no compromise. I couldn't put my whole life's calling on hold for 2 years and not resent you for it one day. And you couldn't split yourself in half. One half raising a broken-hearted teenage girl who needed her big brother to be her whole sky, and the other half flying across an ocean to hold a marriage together over a phone screen. It wasn't a fight we could win. It was just math that didn't add up. 2 people who loved each other standing on 2 pieces of ground that were drifting apart and no bridge long enough to reach. She was right. That was the thing that had gutted me 2 years ago and gutted me again now. It wasn't that we didn't try. It's that some walls aren't built out of misunderstanding. Some walls are just real. But that still wasn't it. I could see it in her face. There was one more layer. The one she'd carried across the ocean and back. That's the reason we couldn't stay, I said slowly. But it's not the reason you were the one who filed. You filed, Roz. You pushed for it. You told me to sign, and I never understood why you were in such a hurry to end something that was already ending on its own. Why? Her whole face crumpled. Because of what I heard you say, she whispered. In the hallway. Outside June's room. The floor dropped out of my stomach. You didn't know I was home yet, she said. The words coming faster now, like she'd held them behind a dam for 2 years, and the dam had finally broken. June was crying. She'd had a bad day, one of the hard ones, and she thought it was her fault. That she was the reason we were falling apart. That if she didn't exist, you and I would be fine. And you, Rosalind pressed her hand flat against her mouth for a second, trying to hold herself together. You got down on the floor next to her bed, and you told her, you will never, ever be the thing I lose. I made a promise. You come first, and you'll always come first, and no one gets to make you feel like less than that. I remembered saying it. I remembered meaning every word. And I stood in that hallway, Rosalind said, tears running freely now. And I understood something I couldn't ununderstand. If I stayed, you would spend the next 2 years being torn in half. And every single time you had to choose her, which you should, which you had to, a little piece of you would feel like you were failing me. And I couldn't do that to you. I couldn't make that girl the rope in a tug of war between the 2 people she loved most. She'd already lost her parents. I was not going to let her grow up believing she cost her brother his marriage too. The whole terminal, the whole world, went silent around me. So I made it about the job, she said. I let you think I chose my career over you. I let your mother's sister say those things about me at the divorce. The ambitious one, the cold one, the surgeon who loved her scalpel more than her husband. I let all of it stand. Because it was cleaner. Because if you thought I'd chosen my dream, you'd let me go and give June every ounce of your whole heart. And she'd never, ever know she'd had anything to do with it. I could not speak. I sat there at that sticky plastic table, with 2 years of grief rearranging itself in my chest into something completely new. She hadn't left because she loved her career more than me. She'd left because she loved my sister enough to take the blame for a wound none of us could heal. You let me hate you a little, I finally said, my voice barely working. On purpose, to save her. It was worth it, she whispered. If it gave June a whole home instead of a broken one, it was worth every second. And that's when I broke. Not loudly. I'm not a loud crier. But I felt the tears come hot and fast, and I didn't stop them, and I didn't look away, because for the first time in 2 years, I wasn't hiding my face from anyone. But here's the thing I need you to understand about me. Even sitting there, even wrecked, even loving her more in that moment than I ever had, I did not reach across the table and pull her into my arms and pretend 2 years of pain could vanish in an airport, because I'd learned something too, in those 2 years alone. June knew, I said quietly. Rosalind went still. What? She figured it out. Not for a long time, but last year, when she got her college acceptance and we were packing up her room, she found the old therapy folder in a box. Your handwriting all over it. Notes you'd made. Things you'd tried. I wiped my face with the back of my hand. She sat on her bedroom floor and read the whole thing, and then she came downstairs, and she looked at me and she said, Adrian, Rosalind didn't leave because she stopped loving us. She left because she loved us too much to stay. A 17-year-old girl figured out in one afternoon what took me 2 years. Rosalind made a sound that was half sob, half laugh. She never blamed you, I said. Not once. She blamed me. For letting you carry it alone. For not fighting harder to understand why. For signing the papers instead of chasing you down and demanding the truth. I looked right at her. And she was right about that. That's the part I've had to live with. Not that we split. Some walls are real. Roz, you're right. Some walls just are. But I let you carry the whole weight of it by yourself, so I wouldn't have to feel it. I called that being strong. It was just me hiding again. Same thing I did after my parents died. I disappear into duty so I don't have to feel the grief. I did it to you our whole marriage, and I did it one more time on the way out the door. We sat there, both of us wrecked, both of us finally holding the same truth in our hands at the same time. And then, because I had spent 2 years becoming a man who says the thing instead of swallowing it, I said the hardest part out loud. I can't do the almost version of this again, Roz. My voice was steady, even through the tears. I can't do the maybe, the half-in. The two people who love each other from a safe distance because being all the way in is too scary. If there's a door still open here, and God help me, I think there is, then it's all the way open or not at all. Out loud. On purpose. No more taking the blame to protect each other. No more disappearing into duty. No more oceans we don't talk about. I'm too old and I've missed you too long to do this at half. She was staring at me like she'd never seen me before. That's my one condition, I said. That's the only way I know how to do this now. For a long moment she didn't answer. The board blinked red over our heads. Somewhere down the terminal, Theo was walking back toward us, with 3 coffees balanced in his hands, slowing down when he saw our faces, giving us one more minute. Then Rosalind set down her paper cup. She reached across that sticky little table and took both my hands in hers, and her grip was steady now. A surgeon's hands. Hands that had held a stranger's heart and started it beating again. Adrian, she said, there's one more thing I never told you. About Portland. My stomach tightened. You're taking a hospital job there, you said. I turned down 3 better hospitals to take that one. Her eyes searched mine, terrified and hopeful all at once. Do you want to know why I'm really moving to Portland? And behind her, the board stopped blinking. Our flight had started to board. I looked it up, she said, and her hands tightened around mine. The interview you're flying to. It's at Bridgeport Medical, isn't it? The architecture firm doing their new children's wing. I froze. How did you? Because I'm the one who recommended the firm. Her voice was shaking again. But this time there was something underneath it. Something almost like hope. I sit on the planning board for that hospital, Adrian. 3 weeks ago I saw your name on a proposal, and I nearly fell out of my chair. I didn't move to Portland to run away from you. I moved to Portland because it was the one city in this whole country where I thought, maybe, if I was brave enough, I might build a life close to you again. And then your name landed on my desk like the universe was daring me to actually do it. The gate agent's voice cut across the terminal. Now boarding all rows, flight 447 to Portland. Neither of us moved. I wasn't going to take that job, I said. My voice came out cracked and small. I was flying out to turn it down. I told myself I just needed to feel like I was moving. I didn't know I was moving toward you. And that's when it happened. Not fireworks, not a movie kiss under a spotlight, Just two people who had spent 2 years apart, standing up at the same moment and folding into each other in the middle of a crowded gate, while strangers stepped around us with their rolling suitcases. She pressed her face into my collar, right where she'd started this whole thing an hour ago, and she whispered it again. I missed you. But this time I finally got to answer. I missed you too, Roz. Every single day. I just didn't know I was allowed to say it. Theo was standing a few feet away, with 3 coffees and the biggest, dumbest, happiest grin on his face. And he wiped his eye with the back of his wrist and pretended it was allergies. We almost missed the flight. We were the last 2 down the jet bridge, breathless, laughing, her hand in mine like it had never left. She took the middle seat she'd hated her whole life so she could sit next to me instead of across the aisle. And somewhere over the mountains, with the whole country sliding by underneath us, she fell asleep on my shoulder, and I stayed awake the entire flight. Not working, not hiding, just present, just there, the way I should have been the whole time. We didn't fix 8 years in one delayed afternoon. We were too smart for that now, and too scarred. We did it the slow way, the honest way. I took the job at the children's hospital. She started as chief of her department. We dated, actually dated, my own ex-wife, like a nervous kid picking her up at her door with my heart in my throat. For a full year, before either of us said the word marriage out loud. June flew out to visit that first Christmas. When she saw Rosalind standing in the doorway, my little sister, 19 now, taller than both of us, studying to be a therapist so she could help kids who lost what she lost. She didn't say hello. She just walked straight up to Rosalind and hugged her and said, "Thank you for loving us enough to leave, and thank you for loving us enough to come back." The 3 of us stood in that doorway and cried like the world was ending. But it wasn't ending. It was starting. 14 months after that delayed flight, I got down on one knee at gate 22. Same airport, same gate. Because some stories deserve to circle back to the exact place they cracked open and heal there. She said yes before I even finished the question. Theo caught the whole thing on his phone, sobbing the entire time, which is why the video is so shaky. She still tells me she missed me, and I've spent every day since making sure she never has to again. So let me leave you with this. Because this story was never really just about an airport, or a bag, or a man who turned out to be a brother. Here's the question I want you to sit with tonight. In your own life, right now, is there someone you've quietly decided to resent, when the truth is they may have hurt you to protect you? We are so quick to write the villain's version of the people who leave us. The cold one, the selfish one, the one who chose their dream over us. But how many times is the real story the opposite? That they carried a weight in silence, took the blame, walked away hurting, so that we could heal. How many people have we unloved based on a story we told ourselves, without ever once asking them for the truth? Because that's the thing about walls. Some are built from misunderstanding, and those, you can talk your way through. But some walls are real, made of duty, and circumstance, and love, that pulls 2 ways at once. And the tragedy isn't the wall. The tragedy is when 2 people stand on opposite sides of a real wall for years, never knowing the other one is standing there too, with their hand pressed against the very same stone. So here is my inspiration for you, whoever you are, wherever you're watching this from. It is never too late to ask for the truth. It is never too late to say the thing you swallowed. The door you nailed shut 2 years ago, go check it. It might just be swinging loose on its hinges, waiting for one honest sentence to blow it open. Courage isn't a young person's game. Adrian was 38. And terrified. Rosalind held a stranger's heart in her hands, but was too scared to reach for her own. Reach anyway. Say it anyway. Out loud. On purpose. All the way in. And to the younger generation watching this, please, hear me. Do not disappear into your duties and call it strength. Do not go silent and call it being the strong one. The bravest thing a person can ever do is not to carry pain alone in noble silence. It's to open your mouth and say, "This hurts, and I need you. And here is the truth, even though the truth is terrifying." Love is not proven by how much you can suffer quietly. Love is proven by how honestly you can speak. Ask the hard question. Have the scary conversation. Tell the people you love why you did what you did. Because most of the broken things in this world aren't broken beyond repair. They're just waiting, in the dark, for someone brave enough to say the true thing out loud. Don't wait for a delayed flight to say what your heart already knows. If this story moved you, sit with that question tonight. And maybe, just maybe, send it to the one person you've been meaning to tell the truth to. They might be standing on the other side of the very same wall, hand pressed to the same stone, waiting for you.